Councillor Priest. Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
This is the chair of the licensing committee.
Councillor Bacon.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Baker-Smith.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Barry. Councillor Burt.
Jude Evans.
Councillor Pleasant.
Councillor Julie Jones-Evans.
Councillor Bloomfield. Councillor Downer. Councillor Eccles. Councillor Fuller.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Gauntlet. Councillor Gilby. Councillor Hillard. Councillor Hobart.
Councillor Julie Jones-Evans.
Councillor Holland. Councillor Hollis.
Councillor Jones Evans.
Councillor Powell.
Richards.
Councillor Jones-Evans. Well done. Councillor Jordan. Councillor Kenny.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Jones Evans.
Councillor Midland.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Nicholson.
Jones Evans.
Councillor Wilcox.
Councillor Richards.
Are you sure about that, Councillor? You are. Councillor Burks.
Jones Evans.
Councillor Pitcher.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Price.
Councillor Jones
Councillor Priest.
Councillor Jones Evans.
I'll stay that bit. I just think it's last. I don't think five councillors. Councillor Richards. Richards. Yes. Councillor Steely.
Jones Evans.
Councillor Smart.
Richards.
Councillor Stevens.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Stewart.
Jones Evans.
Councillor Stubbings.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Ward.
Councillor Jones Evans.
Councillor Warlow.
Richards.
Councillor Whitley-Smith.
Richards.
Councillor Whitehouse.
Jones Evans.
And Councillor Whittle. Thank you. I have 18 for Councillor Richards and 20 for Councillor Julie Jones-Evans. I duly announce Julie Jones-Evans as the new chairman of the licensing committee. Now go on to the Appeals Committee. I have Councillor Richards. Do I have a second for that, please? And a second with Councillor Stubbings. Do I have any other nominations for that place? Are there any other? Yes? Councillor Hardy.
Nominate Councillor Bob Lazard.
Councillor Bob Lazard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Julie Jones, seconded. Right, are there any other nominations? There are none. Councillors, you know the procedure. Councillor Bacon.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Baker-Smith.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Barry. Councillor Bertie.
Lazard.
Councillor Lazard.
Me.
Councillor Bloomfield.
Lazard.
Councillor Downer.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Eccles.
Richards.
Councillor Fuller.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Gauntlet. Councillor Gilby.
Lazard.
Councillor Hillard. Councillor Hobart.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Hollands. Councillor Hollis.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Howard.
Richards.
Councillor Jones-Evans. Councillor Jordan. Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Lovely.
Lazard.
Councillor Medham.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Nicholson.
Lazard.
Councillor Wilcox.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Burks.
Councillor Lazard.
Councillor Pitcher.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Price.
Councillor Lazard.
Councillor Priest.
Councillor Lazard.
Councillor Richards.
Richards.
Councillor Seeley.
Richards.
Councillor Smart.
Richards.
Councillor Stevens.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Stewart.
Richards.
Councillor Stubbings.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Ward.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Warlow.
Richards.
Whitley-Smith. Councillor.
Councillor Richards.
Councillor Whitehouse.
Abstain.
Councillor Whittle. Councillor Whittle.
Lazard.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Richards has 24, Councillor Lezard has 13, and I have one abstention. I duly announce Councillor Richard as chairman. Right, now we move on to the Employment Committee. Councillor Gordon, do I have a seconder, please?
Sorry, Chairman.
Councillor
Kendall, yeah?
Yes, Councillor Kendall.
So I thought you said Councillor Gordon, Chairman.
No, before I do the split after this evening so far, I think we'll allow me that.
Of course I will,
Use
Chairman.
it for
As many as you need.
Right, do we have a second? Councillor Stubbs, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Councillor seconded? Councillor Stewart. Are there any other nominations? There are none. In the procedure, we go through the tables. Councillor Bacon.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Baker Smith. Councillor Barry. Well, Councillor Baker Smith, I think, give a call. How much slower can I go? Councillor Barry. We'll get to vote. Councillor Elton.
Lumley.
Councillor Plezard.
Councillor Jeff Lumley.
Councillor Littlefield.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Downman.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Eccles.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Fuller.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Courtney.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Kilby.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Hillard.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Hobart.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Collins. Councillor Lumley. Councillor Hollis.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Howell.
Councillor Gordon. Kendall.
Councillor Jones Evans.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Jordan. Councillor Kendall.
Myself.
Councillor Lumley.
Myself.
Councillor Midland.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Nicholson.
Lumley.
Councillor Percy. Councillor Wilcox.
Kendall.
Councillor Percy.
Lumley.
Councillor Fisher.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Price.
Councillor Jeff Lumley.
Councillor Cruz.
Councillor Jeff Lumley.
Councillor Richards.
Kendall.
Councillor Seeley.
Space.
Councillor Smart.
Kendall.
Councillor Stevens.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Stewart.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Stones.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Ward.
Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Warlow. Councillor Whitney Smith. Councillor Whitehouse.
Say Councillor Lumley.
Councillor Whittle.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Your attention, please, members. Councillors, I do not like talking in the chamber when we are meeting and shaking hands. It's not really councillor. Thank you. Oh dear. Councillor Kendall 18, Councillor Lumley 19. I duly announce that Councillor Lumley is Now I have the pension fund. I have Councillor Warlow, so I have a second. Second, that's the chair. Do I have any other nominations for that? Nominate?
The man of all trades, Councillor Paul Blessard.
Do I have a second for that, please? I do, Councillor Bertie, thank you. Do I have any other nominations? I have none. Right, we go through this.
Yeah, we have to speak on this issue, please.
Chair, well, I'd rather not. We are
Chair, I just want to make a comment. I made it at the previous meeting I was at. Our pension fund this last year has performed outstandingly, and I just need people to bear that in mind when you vote on this. It's no disrespect to either candidate, but I think the other boy can be proud that has achieved some very significant achievements in the time of very low interest rates generally, and that might be worth people knowing the right things there.
Councillors, I think that was very important information. Thank you very much, Councillor. Right, we now go to vote. Councillor Nathan.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Baker-Smith.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Barrett. Councillor Bertie.
Bezard.
Councillor Bezard.
Me.
Councillor Bloomfield.
Bezard.
Councillor Downer.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Eccles.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Fuller.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Gould.
Councillor Bezard.
Councillor Gilby.
Bezard.
Councillor Hillard.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Hobart.
Councillor Bezard.
Councillor Holland. Councillor Bezard. Councillor Hollis. Warlow. Councillor Howe.
Warlow.
Councillor Jones-Evans. Councillor Jordan. Councillor Kent.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Lumley.
Bezard.
Councillor Medley.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Nicholson.
Bezard.
Councillor Wilcox.
Warlow.
Councillor Perks.
Bezard.
Councillor Pitcher.
Councillor Bezard.
Councillor Price.
Bezard.
Councillor Priest.
Councillor Bezard.
Councillor Richards.
Warlow.
Councillor Stevie.
Bezard.
Councillor Smart.
Warlow.
Councillor Stevens.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Stewart.
Councillor Bezard.
Councillor Stubbings.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Ward.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Warlow. Councillor Smith.
Councillor Warlow.
Councillor Whitehouse.
Bezard.
Councillor Whittle. Thank you, councillors.
Warlow.
Right, councillors, we have 21 for Councillor Warlow and 17 for Councillor Wizard. I duly declare Councillor Warlow elected.
Chair, could I go to get a drink, please?
If you so wish to go, Okay, councillors, item 8 is to approve the programme for the ordinary council meeting for the ensuing year. Linda.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've got an interesting year ahead. Very simply, Chair, if I can speak, very simply, Chair, we have a proposed list of council dates for the coming year. They're set out on our agenda. I really don't know why I'm given a maximum of 10 minutes to speak on this. I really can't drag it out that much. I will take the opportunity to announce, however, a matter that's been of interest in this chamber more widely. The meeting on the 8th of July, the intent is to bring two matters before that, namely the education consultation result, the paper, and the waste procurement project. They're matters that actually the decision falls formally with the executive, but it is appropriate that the full council gets a chance to debate those and make recommendations to the executive. So that's one of your diaries, as they say. Otherwise, the list is there. I look for a second, but I think we can do a swift to the vote, and we need to have one.
Right, yes we do actually. Can I ask for a second, Councillor Stubbings? I also would ask if any other member wishes to comment. You have 5 minutes that you wish to do so. Councillor Lumley.
Chair, I wish to object to the date of the 8th of July. In the calendar that was circulated to all elected members prior to Christmas, that date was the 1st of July. In my view, elected members need to be able to rely on that calendar. It was subsequently changed unilaterally because the leader and the deputy leader, the chair of scrutiny, and I believe the managing director are attending the local government association conference.
Point of order, Chair, that's
No,
not true.
just one
It's not
minute.
true.
Councillor
Well,
London.
it is true.
It isn't.
You wouldn't know you're
Gentlemen,
you wouldn't know truth and a thing in the face.
Councillor London to finish what he's saying, and then I will take
You
it.
wouldn't know truth but him in the face, Chair. There we go.
Well, just please, Councillor.
Yes, it was unilaterally changed without any discussions, and it's now the 8th of July. Now, I know I'm not the only member, but I'm one particularly angry member that this was changed to the 8th, because the suspicion has to be that the decision regarding the secondary school that serves my community is going to have a negative decision made at this council in my absence.
Thank you, Councillor London.
No, I haven't finished.
Oh, sorry.
Have you heard of the pregnant pause? It's quite an effective oratorical skill.
It is very much so, and you're very skilled at it.
As one of the local members most profoundly affected by this unnecessary threat to Medina College, I think it's imperative that I have the opportunity to be at that full council, instead of being messed around over the calendar. I ask that the full council is deferred till later in July, so that this decision can be made with me there. Now, I know a lot of you won't like that, but I actually think I have a valid contribution to make to this, unless you would just like to railroad through a decision that closes Medina College without the presence of one of the leading members in opposition to the consultation you've undertaken. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor London. Councillor Stubbins, you may respond to whatever it was you were going to say.
I want to clarify something that wasn't true in the statement that Councillor Lovely made, Chair, insofar as I am not attending the LGA conference, that's all.
Okay, fine, thank you. Councillor Priest, and then Councillor Dew. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I have tremendous sympathy for Councillor Lumley. I'm unclear, having attended the previous scrutiny, why July the 8th is the absolute date of the education debate. It may be appropriate to defer that particular item to September. If there's no pressing urgency for it to be decided upon in July, it may be pragmatic to look at a September date to give all parties the opportunity to contribute appropriately. Because its implementation could be for a year anyway, whatever the outcome. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hollins.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure whether Mr. Lumley is back, Councillor Lumley is back. Maybe the council meeting is deferred for a week or 10 days, perhaps, whenever it possibly just meets back is imperative, is that fine?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dew.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to actually support my colleagues, Councillor Priest and Councillor Lovely, in what they've said about these, the 8th of July Day. I would also like to object to the 6th of April. 1st of April this year was moved, in June. Council, it was moved to the 1st of April, and that was during the school holidays. 6th of April of 2016 is again during Easter holidays. Now, I have a child, many other members have families. We are not allowed to take our children on holiday during this term time, which you appreciate now. So I do object to this meeting, because I feel that I'm being disenfranchised, so many people in Newport Central, because I would not have been able to attend that date.
Right, I hear what you say, Councillor. If you can give me a moment to write, Councillor.
Not liking your day, am I?
No.
Councillor Lumley, I suggested that we move
Chair, I'm not sure why the urgency needs to be made.
No, I'm trying to help you with
Yes.
I really
Well,
am.
if the decision could be made at the meeting scheduled on the 2nd of September, that would be fine. But unfortunately, this is hanging over Medina College at the moment. Maybe we just defer it till later in July. I'm away for 2 weeks. I relied on the calendar. I don't ever to rely on that again, because there was never any consultation about this day from the supposedly open and transparent council.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Right, councillors, I think we have to start.
I'm sorry, but I mean, I hear what Councillor Jones Evans said, and I understand that. For reasons which I won't go into now, I shan't be here on the 14th of October. Are we all going to say, I can't be here, I can't be here? If we give it into one member, then we all say why we can't be here.
I hear what you say, Councillor, but I think Councillor had...
I'm not talking about Councillor Lumley.
Oh, yeah. Councillor Richards.
See, I don't say much in this, Madam Chairman, but this is getting ridiculous. The council sits and debates because one member clashes his holiday. Tough. We're all going to miss meetings sometime or other.
Yeah, I hear what you say, Councillor.
And as for the comment about the catchment area of Medina High being the one that most of his kids in the area goes to, Medina High has got a very wide catchment area.
I'm sorry, Councillor, I'm going straight to the meeting now. Leader of the Council, please.
I was being helpful. We will, if we are to debate the waste procurement contract at full council, we have extremely tight timescales. That will need to be the 8th of July. The decision needs to be made at that time, within 48 hours, 24 hours even of that, and will be extremely difficult to make a week earlier. As far as the education matter is concerned, Councillor Lumley makes an awful lot of assumptions. I think there's a great deal of nervousness in schools and possibly issues with central government about delaying the decision on that consultation until the 2nd of September. What I would propose is there is a members' session on the results of the consultation. In fact, I think it's technically through the Scrutiny Committee in June. I cannot recall the date of that off the top of my head, but perhaps it may be appropriate for the results of the consultation to be discussed and made clear at that meeting, and then the appropriate date at which it can go forward to a full council, possibly the 8th of July, possibly something a little later. It might be appropriate to discuss at that time. I hear what Councillor Lumley says, and I know his concerns, but as I say, I think that may be the best course, and then perhaps a fully informed decision could be taken once all members have had the opportunity of greater information, which can come out through the Scrutiny Committee.
That's very helpful from the lady. Can I ask, therefore, that in terms of agenda item 8, we insert the words after the 8th of July provisional. Thank you.
Chairman, if members would wish to discuss the Waste Procurement Council contract at full council, there's got to be a meeting on that date. Otherwise, I will just have to ask that, go straight to executive. So can we have a meeting on that date? It is, of course, open to members to request a meeting or for the meeting to be added to the list if necessary.
Well, Chair, in the spirit of endeavouring, I realise I'm probably isolated on my quality list thing in the city. But in the spirit of trying to find a halfway house, can I suggest, provided this is effectively minuted, and I'm sure it will be, by our officers at the front here, that the leader has indicated that the date could be deferred at some point, I will be content. Thank you.
Well, Chair, the recommendation remains that list of dates on your sheet, and as long as Councillor Lumley's request for 15 minutes, which he's just made, and I think complied with, then that is the recommendation, essentially that list of dates.
Do I have a second? Is that seconded? Councillor Stubbings, is seconded? I don't really, is it really urgent because the time is 8 o'clock and it's getting...
Thank you, Chair, but not one comment was made about the Easter holidays. And we do have to take note of the diversity and equality in this chamber. And there are many members in this chamber that have children of school age. And it's been completely ignored, my comment. We never used to have council meetings during the Easter holidays, so what's happened now?
Chairman, I'm more happy than happy to withdraw that date and we can fix another date in a certain time period if required.
I think that now, I think I'm going to now take the vote has been seconded. I believe the leader has met the requirements of the council and has spoken. I'm now going to take the vote. Councillor Baker.
In favour.
Councillor Baker-Smith.
In favour.
Councillor Barry. Councillor Bertie.
Abstain.
Councillor Blizzard.
In favour.
Councillor Greenfield. Abstain. Councillor Downer. For. Councillor Eccles. For. Councillor Fuller.
For.
Councillor Gordon-Little. For. Councillor Gilby.
For.
Councillor Hillard. Councillor Hobart.
For.
Councillor Hollands. For. Councillor Hollis. For. Councillor Howe. For. Councillor Jones-Evans. Councillor Jordan. For. Councillor Cameron. For. Councillor Lumley. For. Councillor Medland. For. Councillor Nicholson.
Abstain.
Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Perks. Councillor Pitcher. For. Councillor Price. Abstain. Councillor Priest. For. Councillor Richards. For. Councillor Seeley. Councillor Smart. Councillor Stevens.
Abstain.
Councillor Stewart.
For.
Councillor Stubbings. For. Councillor Ward. For. Councillor Wardo. For. Councillor Whitton-Smith. For. Councillor Whitehouse.
Abstain.
Councillor Whittle. For. Thank you, councillors. Right, so councillors, we have 31-4-7 again, so it has been carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move on to motions submitted under Procedure Rule Item 16, Councillor John Linden.
Thank you, Chair. I feel I ought to apologise for having motions on the agenda this evening, particularly to those who do not normally attend and possibly did not expect to be in a hot and slightly fractious chamber for this long. However, I do think these points are needing to be dealt with swiftly and dealt with swiftly, hence I'm afraid I must proceed with them. The first motion relating to minute 47C, as members I'm sure are aware, refers to the decision made at last council on a chairman's casting vote in relation to a proposal to look at full council electing the executive. There were some lengthy speeches on that evening, and I think we can probably recall the content of them. And I will only speak very briefly, as I expect members to remember much of the debate. It is the case that we've had an election in the interim period. Since that decision, it's not been possible to contact the Secretary of State, as was proposed as an amendment to that original motion. And partly that is also due to the fact that officers were aware there was to be a proposal to rescind coming forward. Even if it would have been possible to send a letter to the Secretary of State. I reiterate briefly what I said last time, that following that course would be, I think, a fairly pointless exercise, as the legislation does not permit the Secretary of State to make any decision or direction without satisfying the test set in the legislation. There's been no attempt by any member of this council, opposer or supporter of the motion, produce any documentation to satisfy the statutory test, and that is true across the country. No one has tried to advance this. I would suggest that it's because, frankly, the test is not capable of being satisfied, and as I think I said last time, the legislation is in its form, the form it is, and was changed a few years ago for very good reason. I think more pertinently, there are many more pressing things we should be spending time and energy on in this council. And rather than pursuing something that will, in my view, inevitably be a dead end, or at the very least would create a rod to the back of any executive, whatever makeup it may be in this council, that this motion should be rescinded as per the proposal. And I look for a second.
Could I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor.
Move to the vote, Chair.
No, we need to have a debate on it.
Right. Councillor Stewart, Councillor Blezard, and... Right, in that order.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chairman. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the meeting when I understand it was quite a vital meeting with certain colleagues moving around the building. But the bottom line on this is I do have in my possession, through the good offices of the re-elected MP, a letter direct from the Department of Communities and Local Government. And it might help the Chamber for me just to read this out, because it may placate those that are concerned and deal with the issue rather quickly. It says, "Dear Andrew, thank you for your email. On behalf of an Isle of Wight resident, whilst where the County Council members can select individual members of the Council Executive, or whether it is the Council Leader's prerogative. This is a matter that rests with the Leader of the Council. Chapter 2 of the Local Government Act 2000 deals with executive arrangements in local authorities. Section 9C provides that where an authority is operating a leader and cabinet model of governance, which is more or less what we call the executive, doesn't change the name, the executive may consist of a councillor of the authority elected as a leader of the executive by the authority, the executive leader, and 2 or more councillors of the authority appointed to the executive by the executive leader. Roughly translated, it tells us that you can't actually do what is being proposed in the original motion. And on that basis, I hope this is a bit of a working together, because we've achieved something which perhaps might have been achieved before. I feel quite confident we can now take a vote to say it can't be done and we should rescind the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. I do have a procedure. I do have 2 people wishing to speak. I do still wish to speak, Councillor Blezard.
Most certainly.
Please speak.
Right, thank you. Obviously, I did expect Councillor Bacon to be doing his usual lawyer's bit.
We've seen it all now, haven't we? Don't the people over there have short memories? Do we all recall when this document was put before the council, as if it was council policy? Ireland independence, people before politics. They've gone very quiet about it recently. We haven't heard much comment about it, but it was being trumpeted 2 years ago. And if I can just refer to it, page 7, under paragraph 1.3, it says, in accordance with the Ireland independence promise, the leader of the council, all cabinet members, will be elected by the full council to reflect the will of the whole island. Now, if I look at the names of the 12 people who signed the petition to have this decision revoked, 9 of them are actually signatories to this document. So they're actually arguing against what in fact they stood for election on. And I can go through the names: Councillor Bacon, Councillor Bacon-Smith, Councillor Fuller, Councillor Hillard, Councillor Howe, Councillor Jordan, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Stubbins and Councillor Wardlow were all people who signed up to this document. If it was not possible to do it, why didn't they find that out before they went out and made promises to the electorate? I really do find that absolutely appalling. I find it appalling that a letter has not been sent to the department. I was castigated at the last meeting for relying on a conversation with a civil servant. We're now relying on a contrary email. It would have been far better if this decision hadn't been made, if a letter had gone off to the department asking for clarification, and can we do it? And certainly the legislation says that yes, there are circumstances where the Secretary of State will allow it. We won't know now because it's not going to happen. But it would certainly have been worth pursuing, at least if for nothing else, for the people over the other side of the chamber to at least live up to what they stood for election on. As regards people at this side who voted in favour of the motion after the last meeting, I would simply ask you to act with consistency, throw this attempt to rescind a decision that was properly taken out, and let's see if we can move forward with it.
Thank you, Councillor Lazard. I hear what you say, Councillor Lumley.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight has been an extreme... Oh, thank you. An extremely difficult annual meeting. I'm sure our guests will think, well, please they never have to attend this regularly as the rest of us do. And I think it's a reflection of the nature of a no overall control council, which is what we have. And in the arrogance of the Alawite Independent Group of 16, they seem to forget they are only 40% of this chamber. And tonight we've seen them lose a significant number of votes on people they wanted to put in this place, people for SRAs and stuff like that. And I think we could have avoided all of that if the Ireland Independent Group had lived up to what it stood for as being inclusive, open, transparent, as was stated in the framework for change. But we have a council that is exclusive, that lives on the 5th floor, much like a previous administration did. As somebody who spent a lot of time on my own or with one colleague on this in this chamber, you're increasingly like your predecessors. It's dismissiveness that the opposition have got anything to contribute. Now, I know we're not going to get this anywhere, but as a principle, what we agreed last month, or 6 weeks ago, was what you stood for. I issue pledges when I stand for election, and I live by them. I don't want to throw them in the bin, like you seem to be doing here. This should be something you should be working towards. I would say finally to the leader of the council, you were re-elected tonight. 20% of the council didn't support you. I'm one of them. It's time that you started to live up to what you said in January, Councillor Bacon. Reach out across this chamber. Think about your elected dictatorship you call the executive, and start to have a council run by all the members in this chamber for the benefit of the island, because nobody got a majority at the last local elections. I will oppose the rescission. It's probably a daft thing to do because we can't do it, but I'm going to stick with it as a principle, because I like to stick with principles in the way I represent my community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lumley. I have two other speakers, Councillor Baker-Smith and Councillor Richard Please. Please keep your comments to the point. That's great. Councillor Baker-Smith.
This administration put forward proposals for a full committee system that would have been inclusive of this whole chamber. That was blocked. That was blocked by the other side of this chamber. I wanted a full committee system. That is what I stood on. That is what I stood for election on. And I have not gone back on what I stood for election on. I am now asking this to be rescinded because it is illegal.
I hear what you're saying. Councillor Baker-Smith. Thank you. Councillor Richards.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I would really
Sorry, Councillor Priest, I do beg your pardon. Forgive me.
Thank you, Chairman, again, and apologies to our guests. I think it could have been...
I will deal with that.
Okay, but this is an item that could be referred to the next meetings where we would have had a definitive response from the department. I think it would be more appropriate to have had this definitive response rather than have a debate on what might be and what might not be. I would only echo again, as Councillor Bezard said, it was something very clear when I was a part of the other group that it was absolutely clear that the commitment we made was on that basis to be more inclusive and inclusively aligned. I recognise it before, some 10 years ago, I think there was an executive that was reflecting the chamber. I think Councillor Holland sat on that committee. So I think there is a precedent in this chamber for a cross-party approach to the difficult challenges we face on this island. And I think, as Councillor Lumley said, the election result did not have an overall majority of any party, and therefore I think the chamber should harness the talents of the whole chamber. I've said that throughout. I've been consistent with my position on this. I know I've taken some criticism on that, but I think that's an absolute commitment that was made at the previous election. I think my colleagues recognised that, and there was a pledge. Many put that in their manifesto leaflets, and I think we should all stand by that. And if the answer is no, that's the answer. But I think we should get that answer first before we take this position now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. Councillor Stephen. No. Councillors, I hope this is really going to be to the point. Councillor Whitehouse.
I will be speaking to the point. There is an issue here clearly about the lawfulness rather than the legality of a particular process. But there isn't a challenge here to the spirit of what the gang opposite were elected on. Clear, fundamental commitment to the principle that it would be the council that selected their executive. Now, I don't happen to support that principle myself, but it's what they were elected on. And I think the way to deliver it would be for the leader to give Councillor Lumley and Councillor Blazard an assurance that if he remains in office, then the next time he appoints his council, his executive, he will invite the council to express its view on the substantive motion of the names that he would like to see put forward, and give them an assurance that he will choose to take that into account. In short, he can have his cake and eat it, and to hide behind the technicalities is not good enough. Okay, we can't require this lawfully, but if he's a man of integrity, the leader of the council and his group will back that suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll keep this brief.
Thank you.
My understanding is that the letter to the department was in order to see if it was possible to change the rules to bring in a different system. That would suggest to me that what Councillor Stewart has just read out to us, which are the existing rules, will be the ones we were attempting to change by asking for a new system. Therefore, what it said was not actually being planned. It may be the case at the moment, but that would be what we were seeking to change. And the rule, the key rule, which I understand the leader is worried about, is the one whereby the system, whatever it is that we come up with, is applicable to every council in the country.
in the way that the executive system currently is, or the cabinet system, or the committee system. Well, clearly, an executive committee selected by the full council would be applicable in any situation. In a council which is hung like this one, you are likely to get, hopefully, a more balanced approach across party working. In one where there is a large majority, then it stands to reason that the majority of those executive members are going to come from the largest party, if not all, which is exactly what you would expect. So I cannot see a reason why this system that has been suggested can't work in all situations. And then there's certainly a very easy place to do that says it would be. So I think the letter should go to the Secretary of State, because I would really like to see his views on it. Because I, for one, can't see why it wouldn't work.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm now going to pass Councillor Perkins.
Thank you, Chair. I do not detract good away from a moment of the fact that in a document that was put forward by many of them, that statement was made. A lot of other statements were made as well, and a lot of them have been forwarded with. This one, I fully acknowledge, I think I said it last time, was based on a misunderstanding of the law. The law changed, as you know, Councillor Burton, a few years ago, because you found that out in your researches last time. Found out that the position you put forward initially actually only applies in Wales. But people make mistakes. I acknowledge that, and I think other comments have been made about the practicality of this. We talked about waiting for a decision. Some estimates are, we still haven't made the case, it might take a year. Do we really want to waste that time? I think we've got other things to do. If members want to set fire to this desk and I'll play the fiddle, that's sort of an analogy I'm thinking of for the situation we seem to be putting ourselves in. Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse, for some very positive comments. I'm more willing than probably anyone in this chamber to get around the table and talk. I said earlier, we've got a council and an island to take forward, not just sit in this room bickering like school children, which is what has been happening tonight. If we can have a meeting, representatives of each group in this room, to try and work out a way forward, and for goodness sake, let's do that. We had a 20-person administration to start with. Some people walked out for various reasons. That didn't help. Other discussions have taken place where it looked like agreement was possible. That seems to have been reneged on as well. But if we can work together and trust can come between us and take us forward, and for goodness sake, let's do that. I take that spirit, that's the spirit I think I'd like to see. That's the spirit I'd like to see taken forward. Not playground politics, which I think we just had a bit too much of tonight. So, my door's open, always has been. Come and knock on it, we'll talk.
Thank you, Linda, for your comments, and I hear what you say. I'm now going to go to the vote. Councillor Bacon.
I'm still for the motion.
Councillor Baker-Smith.
For.
Councillor Barry. For. Councillor Bertie.
For.
Councillor Mizar.
Against.
Councillor Bloomfield. For. Councillor Downey. For. Councillor Eccles.
For.
Councillor Fuller.
For.
Councillor Bartlett. For. Councillor Gilby.
Against.
Mr. Gard.
For.
Councillor Hobart.
For.
Councillor Collins. Against. Councillor Hollis.
For.
Councillor Howe.
For.
Councillor Jones.
Against.
Councillor Shaw. For. Councillor Kendall.
For.
Councillor Lumley.
Against.
Councillor Edmund.
For.
Councillor Nicholson.
Against.
Councillor Wilcox. Support. Councillor Perks.
Against.
Councillor Bishop.
Against.
Councillor Price.
Against.
Councillor Priest.
Against.
Councillor Richards.
For.
Councillor Seeley. Against. Councillor Smart. For. Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Stewart.
For.
Councillor Stubbings.
For.
Councillor Ward.
For.
Councillor Waldo.
For.
Councillor Whitby Smith.
For.
Councillor Whitehouse.
For.
Councillor Whittle.
For.
Thank you, councillors. councillors. The vote is 27 for, 11 against. Thank you, councillors. I'll now move on to the meeting again. Then 41 of the full council meeting held on 1st of April 2015 be rescinded in part in order to remove the requirement for a named vote to be taken place where decisions are made by the regulatory committee, as defined in Article 8 of the Isle of Wight Council's Constitution. Leader, you have 10 minutes.
I'll try not to take it. Chairman, I will be as brief as I can, although I suspect that the chair of the planning committee and the previous chair of the licensing committee may like to comment, as it was through.
Let Councillor, whatever her name is over there, comment.
Well, I would say that as a result of concerns expressed by those two people that I undertook to bring this motion forward. In practice, issues have been shown up with named voting in the licensing committee and applied universally in the planning committee. It obviously has its place in part there, where officers' recommendations are not being followed. The key thing to remember, members, is that those two committees are quasi-judicial in their function and their operation. In planning, it seems there is an issue with the procedure that we follow when going through a named vote. I'm not going to describe it, we've seen it often enough tonight. There's a risk of perception of things not being done properly by members of the public. In a small committee like that, if you are going around the members one by one, can the observer be satisfied that each vote is on the issue, or is each vote potentially a later vote down the line being influenced by the votes that have gone before? That has been put before me as a serious concern, and part of talking about quasi-judicial process, part of justice is justice being seen to be done. And if there's a risk of misperception of what councillors are voting for, or why councillors are voting, that is something we must be careful of. I think I'll say no more than that. In licensing, I'm sure most members have, some will have sat on licensing, as I have in the past. Others will have attended a licensing committee to make points, represent parties and so on. But again, it is a quasi-judicial panel, and it operates, as you know, very much like magistrates. Members will be aware that the panel confers and then makes a decision and announces license granted, license not granted, whatever it is. It does not assist the validity and perception of the decision if at the end there's a show of hands. If you think about it, even if that's in a magistrate's court, 3 magistrates, 2 say not guilty, 1 says guilty, probably worse than around. Does that look good? It doesn't. There's a risk that the quality of the decision may be undermined and people may start looking at the reason to challenge. And so therefore it is a question of perception of the quality and validity of decisions of this council that our particular procedure, if applied in those 2 specific instances, may cause problems with, and certainly that is why the 2 chairs approached it. I will say no more. I hope the issue is clear from that, and I know time is dragging on, but I will look for a second on that basis.
Do I have a second? Would you like to speak as you indicated to speak as you're going to say? And then I have Councillor Barry. Yes, I have. Councillor Barry, yes. Thank you. No, I'm going to ask you to speak after yourself. Councillor Barry.
Can I move an amendment that we include the audit committee in that list? At yesterday's meeting, we started off by having a named vote on approving the last minutes. And then we had a named vote on everything else, every single decision, which we didn't really make a decision. Most of them were noted items. The only decision we made was to refer the annual audit committee to meet report to the July full council. Why that needs a name vote, there are other members of the audit committee here tonight, and I think they would agree with me. If you're making a decision I can see people's interest in it, we're making decisions. But if you're not making a decision, why do you have to have a manual vote? It's ridiculous. Move that as an amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Baker-Smith?
Thank you. My main concern is that by going through the voting system individually with each member in turn, it means that effectively, the later your name is in the alphabet, the more control you have over the result. For example, if voting was tied 3-3 and your name started with a Z, then you would have the deciding vote. The casting vote should sit firmly with the chair. It's a quasi-judicial process, and as such, it should remain apolitical. The new system leaves the committee open to politicisation and potential for judicial review. Within planning, names are and always have been recorded where the decision goes against officer recommendation. So in the case of this committee, the new system is both potentially damaging and superfluous to requirement because those names are already recorded.
Thank you, Councillor Baker-Smith. Councillor Hollis?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm so pleased to hear that the leader finds that some of the things that we do are incorrect. I would actually take that further and say it's a complete waste of time having name votes on every single vote in this chamber. Sooner or later we actually realise it. So I would suggest that perhaps we actually think about amending that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis. Councillor Blizzard?
I've listened to what's just been said by the party governments and transparency opposite. I don't see the, Julia, I don't see the point you're making within planning that the person later in the alphabet has got more power because they're now preceding people who voted. But that's already the case when it's contrary to an officer decision. It's already the case if somebody requests a recorded vote, which they will, still be able to do. Certainly as a member of that committee, I have no problem with people knowing it, with it being on the record how I vote. Lady from Brighton chose to start emailing me because she disagreed with a vote I expressed a few meetings ago. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. If we're, into openness and transparency and we want people to know what we're doing, there's absolutely no problem with seeing which way you voted. If you want to avoid the situation of people voting, calling the vote out later, then in a small committee it's quite easy, and I think we discussed this in the last planning committee. All you need is a show of hands and they at once, at the same time, and then the committee clerk just notes down the name of each person. Yeah, quite easy for 7 or 8 people. So I don't, I think we're touching on windmills here. We're trying to make a problem where there isn't one.
Thank you, Councillor Blizzard. Leader? Sorry. Oh, I didn't see your hands up. I beg your pardon. Councillor Mumley, Councillor Seeley, and Councillor
Thank you, Chair. Right. The whole issue of name votes is something that I campaigned for with the previous administration long before the Party of Openness and Transparency hijacked power in this council. Former Councillor Pugh got the rest of the Conservative group to support it, much to my astonishment. But I have to say that it's been engineered in recent years in such a manner as to leave me losing the will to live, such as tonight. It's been entirely misinterpreted from what I wanted. To hear from Councillor Barrett that he voted on the minutes at audit was not my intention. It was about topical, important votes. Now tonight, we've had votes on uncontested elections. And to be frank, that's farcical. Unless, what you need to do is to provide provision. Does anybody want to have it minuted that they oppose this election? We can do that very rapidly without going through the list of names. I hate to say it, but the group leaders meet periodically, they look at constitutional issues. I'm sure some of the third estate will think, oh God, here they go again. But can't we just look at the way this works? Because frankly, About a third of the votes tonight have been pointless, in my view. If there's a choice, yes, there should be a record of it, because people should know how their councillor is represented. Councillor Hollis is of the school that believes you shouldn't be accountable, in my view. I believe in total accountability to my electorate, and I hope the majority of people in this chamber are. I will support this motion because I've listened to what the people have said regarding licensing and planning. I don't agree with Reg about audit, but you shouldn't have been, as chair at the time, you shouldn't have been allowing such ridiculous name votes on minutes, to be frank, Reg. But I do agree with what the motion says here. I will reject the amendment, but I will support the motion. But I implore the leader of the council and the leader of the opposition, as the leader of the two largest groups, to sit down with people like myself and Darrell Pitcher, the other group leaders, to discuss precisely how the name vote should work in the future so it's meaningful instead of daft. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holman. Councillor Seeley.
Very briefly, I think this debate seems to be quite odd. There are many cases, clearly what Councillor Lumley is right, where we don't actually need a name vote, and it's ridiculous that we wasted so much time going through a name vote. It's absolutely barking. But on licensing and planning and these other judicial things, quasi-judicial, absolutely we need a named vote. And the idea that because your name begins with W or S or Z, you're going to have more power than somebody begins with A is nonsense, because it could work against you. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And with this and other things, we've just got endless rowing back of the independence promises, which they seem to be ditching with, like the Lib Dems in 2010. It's ridiculous. And there seems to be some regret on planning that they lost the Blanchard's vote. I'm very glad that the Blanchard's vote went the way it did, because it was, I believe, the wrong decision. And we now seem to be thinking, oh, how could we sort of push things through in the future? You need a named vote for important things of substance, not for the tosh that we've been dealing with, and some of the stuff that we've been dealing with this evening. There's a judgment call, we haven't got it right.
Thank you, Councillor. Would you please put your comments through the chair? Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councillor Seeley. Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm very disappointed that to have the annual council meeting hijacked with motions. It's always been the custom, since I've been in council 6 years, not to have motions at annual council for our guests. So is it next year going to be open season for all councils, or is just the leader allowed to put motions forward?
Thank you. Councillor Fuller, be quick.
Just very quickly, with the Blanchard's application, that was a vote against officer's recommendation, and therefore that was why a name vote took place for that evening. So, just to remind Councillor Seeley of that. Thank you.
We have Councillor Barrett's amendment. Leader.
Thank you, Chair. As I said before, I hesitated before putting motions before this council, but I did feel that there was need to do so. I very much hear what Councillor Barry says and the amendment suggested. For a reason I'll say in a moment, really following other comments, I won't seek an amendment, further amendment to the motion in case there's unexpected controversy on that. I would say Councillors Lezo and Seeley have missed the point. There's an issue with perception, and the problem is procedure. The procedure that's followed, the way it's done. I've got no problem with naming votes as such, where they're necessary and where an appropriate procedure that does not interfere with the potential perception of quality reasons for decision making takes place. I'm very grateful to Councillor Lumley for his comments. I've written in my notes something almost parroting what he said, just what he said. I talked this evening about us getting around the table. I'm hoping that's going to happen, and I think this is a very good issue that we could use that forum to deal with. For that reason, I won't put forward the amendment proposed by Councillor Barry, because I think we may find that there are other areas, I think sometimes being identified, where members have concerns, and perhaps we just ought to look at this whole procedure of voting on the council. We're certainly not going to do it tonight at 25 to 9 on annual council night, but as I say, I brought the motion forward with some hesitation, perhaps with trepidation, because I think we could correct these two issues that are down to the procedure, not the fact of name voting, and we can resolve problems, some immediate problems with this, and we can look at the wider problems all around the table, as I said. So, on that basis, Chair, absolutely in favour of the vote.
I'm going to the vote. Councillor Bacon.
In favour.
Councillor Baker-Smith.
For.
Councillor Barry. Councillor Bertie.
For.
Councillor Pearson.
Against.
Councillor Bloomfield.
For.
Councillor Downham.
For.
Councillor Eccles.
For.
Councillor Fuller.
For.
Councillor Gordon.
For.
Councillor Gilby.
For.
Councillor Hillard. Councillor Hobart.
For.
Councillor Holland. For. Councillor Hollis.
For.
Councillor Howell.
For.
Councillor Jones Evans. Councillor Jordan. For. Councillor Kendall. For. Councillor Lumley. For. Councillor Lennon. For. Councillor Nicholson.
For.
Councillor Wilcox. For. Councillor Purvis. For. Councillor Pitcher.
Abstain.
Councillor Price. For. Councillor Priest.
For.
Councillor Richards. For. Councillor Seeley.
Against.
Councillor Smart. For. Councillor Stevens. For. Councillor Stewart.
For.
Councillor Stubbins. Councillor Ward.
For.
Councillor Warren. For. Councillor Whitley Smith. For. Councillor Whitehouse.
Abstain.
Councillor Whitlam.
For.
Thank you, councillors. Right, councillors, we have 33 for, 2 against and 3 abstentions. Before I close the meeting, I would like to thank all those of our honoured guests, the press and the public. We have refreshments in Committee Room 1 immediately after this meeting, and you're all very welcome to join myself as chairman. We look forward to seeing you in approximately about 5 minutes. I take this opportunity to wish you all the same everybody after the refreshments. Thank you. At 5:29.